Greetings, traveler.
Alright guys, let's go over the class cards now. I'm going to be starting out with Warrior. So, first up we have the Unidentified Shield. Gain 5 armor, gains a bonus effect in your hand. So I'm really not a big fan of this mechanic because it just adds so much more randomness to cards. Alright, but let's go over the card. It's 6 mana, gain 5 armor, so obviously that's complete crap. You'd never play that, but the bonus effects are the things that are interesting. So it has 4 versions. The Rune Shield, which is 5 armor, summon a 5/5 golem. That's decent. That's like Shield Maiden, right? 6 mana, 5/5, gain 5 armor. You'd play that. Not like crazy in Arena, but in certain decks, totally fine. It can be a Serrated Shield, which is 5 armor, deal 5 damage. Comparable to Holy Fire for the Priest. Ghost Face might just be the tiny bit of reach you needed at the end, but nothing super crazy, right? Then Spiked Shield, gain 5 armor, equip a 5 and 2 weapon. The funny thing is that the weapon's actually a shield, a Spiked Shield. It's not just an Arcanite Reaper, so you're just like shield bashing the opponent. Yeah, so it's a 6 mana Arcanite Reaper, but you gain 5 armor. That's pretty good. And then Tower Shield is 5 armor and then gain 10 more armor. So 15 armor, guys, that's crazy. So I probably won't really be drafting this just because, I mean, if you're, it depends on your deck, but most of the time you're not going to really want the 15 armor. I mean, the other effects are fine. It's just like sometimes you're gonna really wish it was one, and then it's the other, right? So it's, I guess you can just hold it until it makes sense. It's fine. I mean, we're gonna try it out, right? We're gonna be playing all classes, so we're gonna be drafting these cards just to get a better feel for them. But maybe I'm a little bit biased just because I don't like the randomness. All right. Next up, we have the Gem-Studded Golem. A 6 mana 5/9 taunt. That's pretty good, but it can only attack if you have 5 or more armor. That's where the shield comes in, guys, and then we can do stuff with our things. So as a warrior, gaining armor is not the toughest thing in the world. Now, even if this thing can't attack, it is somewhat comparable to a Tarlord, right? Which is the 7 mana 1/11, I believe. That's a 5 damage minion on your opponent's turn. So this is a 5/9 at 6, and Tarlord may as well not be able to attack. So I think I like this card. Yeah, once again, these mechanics, like if you haven't really played with them before, are a little bit tough to read, but it feels like these cards are going to be pretty good just because they have taunt on them, and that's the big deal, right? Stuff that can't attack unless, right, is usually bad, but if it has taunt on it, it is immediately relevant, right? It's like, if you taunt up an Ancient Watcher, that's still going to be annoying for your opponent, right? Same way as this thing is overstated, because at 6 mana, usually you'd have a 5/7 or so, which is the Fires Cleaner. This is a 5/9 and it's got taunt, so it's absolutely overstated. It just can't hit your opponent in the face or any other minions unless you have armor. You know, you've armored up or you've played a shield, etc. Obviously, the fact that it has taunt means that you'll probably be keeping your armor. But you have to keep in mind that they printed some poisonous minions again. So you have the 3 mana 1/1 poisonous Divine Shield, you have the 5 mana 1/5 poisonous. So those cards could be a nice counter to these big stall taunt minions. Alright, next up, super fun card. 3 mana 4/4 Kobold Barbarian. At the start of your turn, attack a random enemy. It's not as good as Ogre Brute, because Ogre Brute, you could choose whether you attacked or not. This thing will always swing. So worse than an Ogre Brute, funny, right? But abusable, right? You can play a poisonous minion into this and it has to attack. You know, you could play whatever, you know, what else would be good into this? Like, you can play an egg and it has to attack. So there's a chance it's gonna hit that. So it's abusable by the opponent. I'm still going to try it just because I love these mechanics and I love the. It's funny, right? I hate randomness, but I like Ogre Brute. It's probably this weird quirk, but yeah, maybe because random face is still good, right? So all right, there's not that much more to be said about the card. It's overstated, sure, but the downside will probably make it a bit weird, right? All right. Next up, we have Gather Your Party. 6 mana, recruit a minion. Yeah, I mean, 6 mana, probably not pulling a 6 mana card. Not good for Arena. Just something you might play in Constructed, where you have a like easy big warrior or whatever, right? All right, moving on. We have the Lesser Mithril Spellstone. So the first Spellstone we're going to be reviewing. These cards are interesting, and I find them, some of them, like most of them I probably don't really like too much. Some of them are okay, and then some of them are nice. This one summons a 5/5 Mithril Golem. Equip a weapon to upgrade. So equipping a weapon in Warrior is not that hard. If you upgrade it once, it'll summon 2 5/5s, and then you need to equip another weapon. If you've upgraded 2 times, it'll summon 3 Mithril Golems. So that's 3 5/5s for the price of 7, which is obviously great if you get there. So with the Mithril spells, or so with the Spellstones in general, I'm going to have to playtest them just because it's this new mechanic. We're gonna have to see just how annoying is it to have a dead card in your hand for a while. You can play this. A 7 mana 5/5 is bad, but it's not like it's dead, right? It's not like you can't do anything with it unless you've upgraded it. And equipping one weapon should be doable. So then you get 2 5/5s for 7, which is, yeah, you'll take that, right? Whether it's worth the downside of having a dead card in your hand for a while, I'm not sure about yet. But yeah, this is one of those where, like, even if it doesn't end up working out, you can still play it, and it's like, sure, I have a threat on board, it does something, right? So definitely going to be trying out the Spellstone. All right, Dry Whisker Armor. 2 mana 2/2 Battlecry for each enemy minion, gain 2 armor. It could be cool later in the game, but obviously at 2 mana we want better than a 2/2. We want a 3/2 or 2/3. So not crazy for me right now, but there are some combos with the Gem-Studded Golem, right? Gain some armor, so they can attack with this thing. They didn't print a ton of weapons for Warrior this set. If there were more weapons, this thing would obviously go up in value because then you'd get a lot of health to work with. But next up we have the Reckless Flurry, which says spend all your armor, deal that much damage to minions. It's 3 mana. So it's 3 mana Avenging Wrath, but Avenging Wrath for all your armor. And it can't hit the face. That's a big one. So Avenging Wrath can go face. This thing won't, you know, waste any damage on a face. Sometimes obviously you're going to wish it could, but most of the time you're going to fight for the board. So a turn 5 Dry Whisker Armor, gain like what, 6 armor, and then Reckless Flurry deals 6 damage to the board, or more depending on if you had or already had armor. Could be cool. So it's an epic though, so it's something that we're not gonna see super often. But yeah, it looks like Warrior's getting a little bit of combo potential to do some cool moves. The next one is the Bladed Gauntlet, which fits that theme because it has attack equal to your armor. It's 2 mana 0/2. So if you got 2 armor, it's a 2/2. If you got 4 armor, it's a 4/2. Now, usually when you have cheap weapons, you're like, oh man, it's super good. We can get board control. But this thing won't do anything in the early game because you're probably not going to be armoring up in the early game. So it's a small weapon that doesn't do anything early game, but it can be a really big weapon in the mid to late game. So it can go face though, right? Because obviously you'd be like, oh man, just armor up, armor up, armor up, armor up, boom, hit him for 30, right? That's not gonna happen. So another somewhat difficult card to assess. I would say that it's not gonna be that great just because, you know, we're playing Arena, like every time, you know, they print these cool effects, but what ends up happening most of the time is we just go like, well, yeah, but playing minions on curve is pretty good, and then being able to do stuff when you need to do the stuff is also pretty good. So anything that requires you like, oh, wait until you have this, wait until you have that, is usually not going to be that great, because every time you have to armor up, that's 2 mana down the drain. You have to have the combo card in your hand. So yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of the Bladed Gauntlet. It's also got 2 durability, so it's not like you can, if it had more durability, maybe, right? Alright, then the legendary weapon is the Woe Cleaver. After your hero attacks, recruit a minion. It's an 8 mana 3/3 weapon. So I guess we can like somewhat compare this to like Atiyesh, but even then it's like, once again, it's arena. You're probably going to want to curve out. You're probably going to have a decent amount of small cost minions. So then you're gonna swing once, and then you're gonna have like what, like let's just say you get a 3 or a 4 drop, right? And then, like, sure, maybe if you're a control deck, and I mean, it's good value, right? You can't argue with it. It's good value because you're gonna be able to deal 3 damage to targets, and you're gonna be summoning stuff. It's just slow, right? It's good value, but it's slow. So it needs the appropriate deck for it. Like a deck with a lot of maybe gem-studded golems, you're just stalling and you want to do control warrior stuff, sure. Alright, and then the legendary minion is the Geosculptor Yip. At the end of your turn, summon a random minion with cost equal to your armor, up to 10. Once again, right, it's like this slower control-y card. It's a 4/8 for 8, so it's somewhat durable, and people will have to kill it. So you can see that in this set there is a pretty big incentive to be armoring up. So if you do get the Geosculptor, I think it's going to be pretty good, right? But you're going to you're probably not going to get him very often, and if you do, you need to have a deck that can support him, right? But yeah, overall, like, stand alone, I'd probably pick this guy, right? I'd probably pick him. Alright guys, that was it for the warrior cards. Moving on to the warlock cards. Now these are, Alright, we're just gonna dive right in. So it looks like Blizzard loves Zoo because we're gonna be zooing it up, boys. First off, we have the Kobold Librarian, a 1-mana 2/1 Battlecry draw card, and it deals 2 damage to your hero. So it's basically for free, right? It's like it life taps for you, right? It life taps for you. So it's a 1-mana 2/1 that life taps for you. So you don't have to spend the 2-mana life tapping, and you just get a 2/1 on the board. And as I said earlier, Warlocks love having a lot of small minions. This can combo with like the ooze where you just need, or the 5-mana 1/1 that needs to turn a minion into a 6/6. These are all things that Warlock can do because it loves swarming with little minions and overrunning the opponent. So yeah, super solid. 1-mana 2/1 that life taps for you, because we would usually draft a 1-mana 2/1 with almost no additional upside in Warlock. So not losing a card for it is really nice. Then next up is just, I'm just like, why Blizzard? Why, dude? Come on. Like, just, yeah, Blizzard is a singular dude. It's just like, Blizzard, come on, bro. What the fuck? It's like, the Vulgar Homunculus, a 2-mana 2/4 taunt, and all you need to do is deal 2 damage to your hero. So once again, in Warlock, not that big a deal. Early game, we're used to it. We love Flame Imp. We draft Flame Imp. We want more Flame Imps. This thing is a 2/4 taunt for 2 mana. So yeah, your opponent plays a 3/2, you jam this guy, you're like, what's up, baby? So yeah, not only does it protect your minions, it also just has good stats, comes out for 2 mana. It's just strong. Just imagine, you know, like coin Homunculus into Homunculus. On turn 2, you have 2/4 taunts on the board. That should not be possible, right? So yeah, very powerful, very strong. These guys are going to be everywhere because it's a common, right? And it's in the new set, so there's going to be a bonus on it. So yeah, expect Warlocks to zoo it up frequently. Alright, Dark Pact. Destroy a friendly minion. Restore 8 health to your hero. This is, like, I think in Warlock, this is fine, right? I don't think you're going to want multiple of these, but just having a one-off in Warlock, just how often have you played Warlock and you're just like, oh, I thought only I could get a little bit more health, right? So I think as a one-off, it's going to be fine. It's hard to see because obviously life gain in most classes is just trash, right? But as Warlock, you can just get that right back by tapping. So I think having a one-off, even in an aggressive deck, could be okay. But in control decks, this is where this thing is going to be pretty nice because then you're going to be able to heal back up. But yeah, it's we're gonna have to see if we're going to want more than one of these per deck. Probably not. Alright, next up we got the Lesser Amethyst Spellstone. So the Warlock Spellstone, it's got lifesteal and you deal 3 damage to a minion. So at 4 mana, dealing 3 to a minion and then healing that back up is not that impressive. It's like fine-ish, right? You get to deal damage only to a minion and heal it back up. But then if you take damage from your card, it upgrades. Then it'll deal 5 damage. And then if you take more damage, it'll deal 7 damage. We've seen that we have the Kobold Librarian and the Homunculus, which deal damage to your own face. And then obviously there's Hellfire, there's Fellfire, there's Pit Lord, there's Flame Imp. So there are enough other cards that will do this as well. So yeah, I mean the Spellstone is definitely something that has potential. In this set, I'm definitely going to be trying it out, because if you upgrade it once, that's usually where I'm looking at, right? Like, okay, so how good is it after 1 upgrade? 4 mana, deal 5 to a minion and heal your face for 5? Sure, that's pretty darn good. So all we need to do is have this card in our hand, then take damage from any of our cards, and then you've got a pretty good card. And then obviously, if you can do it twice, you'll gain 7 health back and deal 7 damage to a minion for 4. I can even kill a 4 mana 7/7, right? So yeah, I think this one's pretty good. Alright, next up we have the Possessed Lackey. 5 mana 2/2, Death Rattle, recruit a demon. I mean, maybe with one of the demons that's coming up later, but my initial reaction to most recruit minions is just like, yeah, probably not that good in Arena. I might be completely off about this, but it feels like recruit in Arena is just not going to be that big of a deal. You're still paying 5 mana for a 2/2, and it's a Death Rattle, right? So you don't even get it to turn. You play it. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe if you have some Void Lords in your deck, we'll go over Void Lord in a bit. If you have some Void Lords in your deck, you probably want Possessed Lackey. So, next up we have the Hooked Reaver. It's a 4 mana 4/4 demon, so that's fine-ish. You're not going to be too excited to play this, but it's a demon and it's a 4/4 in Warlock, so you're like, whatever, maybe. But then the battle cry is if you have 15 or less health, gain +3/+3 and taunt. Like, what? So it becomes a 7/7 taunt if you have 15 health or less. Usually, having 15 health or less is not a very, very difficult thing to do in Warlock. Now, on curve, that's a different matter, right? So on curve, you're not really, I don't think I count this guy as a 4-drop, but to me, this looks like a pretty powerful card. And like just having like 2 of these for your late game, and then you can just be fearless, right? You can just be like, I'm just gonna play these Librarians, the Homunculus, I'm gonna tap, I'm gonna play that Hellfire to Fellfire, because the moment I hit 15, boom, I get a 7/7 taunt for 4 on the board. And it's a demon, so it benefits from other demon effects. Alright, next is the Void Lord, the card I was talking about in relation to the Possessed Lackey. It's a 9 mana 3/9 taunt. Death Rattle, summon 3 Void Walkers. Whoa, that's pretty crazy. It's a big ass wall. It's just a lot of stuff you need to get through. If you can't silence this thing or remove it, it's going to stop a lot of damage. So if you pull this from a Possessed Lackey, yeah, that's really annoying. If you get this out of a Bane of Doom, like, holy, oh my god, just, it's so annoying, right? It's just in the way. And then once you finally get through it, it's like 3 Void Walkers. It's like, So yeah, I don't really like that. You can high roll super hard from Bane of Doom with this thing. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, when you draft this card standalone, I think it'll still be fine, right? But it's just like getting it from an effect is going to make it very, very annoying. All right, next up we have Cataclysm. Destroy all minions, discard your hand. Yeah, I mean, discarding your hand is not that great, but 4 mana, no condition. Just destroying, well, I mean, the condition is discarding your hand, but I mean, like, it kills every minion, right, regardless of what it does. So it's Deathwing without the body for 4. Discarding your entire hand I mean, funny enough, I think in a control style deck, this might not be the best because obviously you're gonna have a decent sized hand. But in more aggressive decks, once you lose the board, you just Cataclysm and then tap player drop next turn, tap play 2 minions, maybe, right? So is it going to be a card that is going to be in the back of your mind when you're playing against the Warlock? Absolutely, right? At any given point, the Warlock might just reset the board. If you guys are close in terms of cards, so let's say he has 0 after the Cataclysm, you have 1, he's going to be at an advantage because he's going to be able to life tap and get more cards than you. So it's a card I'm absolutely going to be playtesting when I am the Warlock, and it's a card I'm going to have in the back of my mind when I'm playing against Warlock, because you can just be sure of it that a lot of people are going to be drafting this just because it's like destroy all minions, nice, right? So absolutely something you want to be paying attention to. Okay, then the weapon is the Skull of Manari, or Manari, or we'll go with Manari. At the start of your turn, summon a demon from your hand. It's a 5 mana 0/3. I think it's more of a constructed thing, right? Like summoning Void Lords from your hand, nice, but it's a legendary, it's 5 mana, it then needs to not get removed, it then needs to, it needs to sit there, so don't like it that much. Then the legendary minion is Rin, the First Disciple. It's a 6 mana 3/6 taunt. So that's not that great, but the effect is add the first seal to your hand. The first seal is a 5 mana spell, which has the text summon a 2/2 demon, then add the second seal to your hand, which then summons a 3/3 and gets a third seal to your hand, which then summons a 4/4, adds the fourth seal. So it goes on and on and on until you summon a 6/6, and then you get Azari the Devourer in your hand. Azari the Devourer is a 10 mana 10/10 Battlecry, destroy your opponent's deck. Just fatigue, baby. I mean, obviously when you look at this thing, you're like, oh my god, it's so crazy, destroy the opponent's deck. But then let's just count how much mana we need to get this thing out, right? So first of all, we need to get to turn 6, because Rin is not a demon, so we're not getting her out with any like early effects. So 6 mana for the Rin. Then all the seals combined, that's another 15, right? 15, no, 25, holy shit. All right, so 25 for all the seals, then Azari, that's 35. So yeah, that's 41 mana later, you have your, right. So unless you're on turn 10, you're also only playing 1 seal per turn. Now, the seals do summon decent minions after a while. For 5 mana I get a 4/4, 5 mana I get a 5/5, 5 mana I get a 6/6, right? Those are getting kind of okay, but it's just gonna take so long. And at any point, if they get like counterspelled or so, you're pretty screwed. So yeah, I'm not I don't think this is going to be something. Now, it has to be said that even if you don't get Azari, you do keep getting cards for free. But it's so detempoed at the start. 5 mana for a 2/2, 5 mana for a 3/3, even 5 mana for a 4/4 is like fairly detempoed. So yeah, I don't think it's that crazy. Alright guys, that's the Warlock cards. Alright guys, next up we have the Shaman cards. So, first one here is the Kobold Hermit. 2 mana 1/1, Battlecry, choose a basic totem and then summon it. So for 2 mana you get a 1/1 totem and then potentially whichever else totem you want. This card's gonna make more sense when you see other cards being revealed, but for me it's like, nah, not worth drafting. Alright. Crushing Hand. Deal 8 damage to a minion for 2 mana. Overload 3. So overload 3 is obviously significant, but dealing 8 damage to a minion is nice. I mean, my initial reaction is probably not that. I mean, actually, it's, yeah, so Flamelance, right? Flamelance for Shamans, but a bit more, well, flexible or inflexible, depending on how you want to see it. Yeah, actually, now that I look at it, I was like, yeah, the Overload's like, but that's because I treated it like 2-mana spell. Like, I'm just like, you're never gonna want to play this early. But it's like, yeah, you couldn't play Flame Lance early either, and you'd still pick it, and it was decent. And it's removal in Arena. So yeah, now that I've reconsidered it, I think Crushing Hand's actually pretty decent. It's gonna be something you need to keep in the back of your mind whenever you're playing as a shaman, that they can just delete your 8 health minion and then develop something, and then next turn recover from the Overload. So yeah, pretty good. Alright, 3 mana Healing Rain. Restore 12 health divided randomly among all friendly characters. So it heals up your entire board, it's gonna heal up your face. Yeah. Maybe, right? Probably not, but maybe. It's hard to say with these cards, because usually life gain cards are so bad, and then life gain cards without a body on it, right? We don't really want those. But 12 health for 3, and it heals. Basically what this card says is heal all your minions up to max, and then the rest goes on your face. That's probably what this card is going to be doing. So on some boards, obviously, this thing is going to be nuts. But then you need to first be in a position where you get that board. And then having Healing Rain in your hand obviously reduces the chance you're going to get there. It's going to be a fairly bad top deck most of the time, so probably not that great. But yeah, some boards it's going to be nuts. Alright, the Lesser Sapphire Spellstone. 7 mana, summon 1 copy of a friendly minion. You need to overload for 3, for instance with the Crushing Hand, to upgrade the Spellstone. The upgrade summons 2 copies, and then if you overload for 3 again, it'll summon 3 copies of a friendly minion. So for 7 mana, I'm not a huge fan of this card, because your opponent has to leave the minion on the board, probably, right? Because it is a 7 mana card. So you're already in that predicament that you need your opponent to leave it on the board, and then you need to have overloaded for it to be worth it. Now, if you do get it up to 3 and you have anything reasonable stick, 7 mana, summon 3 copies of it is obviously nuts. But there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes in there, so probably not that great. Could be wrong about it. Primal Talismans says give your minions Death Rattle, summon a random basic totem. Not impressed. Once again, makes sense when you see one of the next cards. And then we have the Murmuring Elemental, 2 mana 1/1, it's an elemental itself. Battlecry, your next Battlecry this turn triggers twice. So it's a 2 mana 1/1 and it's a combo setup. I don't really like it, but obviously there can be some nuts potential, right? You can have a Fire Rally shoot twice, you can have a Blaze Collar shoot twice, Blaze Collar to the face, easy game clap, right? But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of comboing, so I don't think it's going to be that crazy. But obviously there are going to be times where this is going to destroy you, or you're going to use this to destroy your opponents. But then you have to remind yourself all the times where it is just 2 mana 1/1, or it's a card that sits in your hand because you can't do anything with it. Then here the card why they're pushing these totems, the Wind Shear Stormcaller, 5 mana 5/5, which is playable. That's the big one. Battlecry, if you control all 4 basic totems, well, summon an Elakir. Oh, just an Elakir, right? So, yeah. That doesn't happen super often in Arena, that you have all the totems out. But if you do, yeah, you probably just win the game. So, suddenly there's going to be a lot more respect for totems, because this is a 5 mana 5/5, which means that it is absolutely draftable. It is not going to hold you back that much. It's not like you pick this thing and says like, it's complete trash if I don't have all my totems out. No, that's the dangerous thing, that shamans will draft this card, and oftentimes it will just be the best card in the pack, regardless of whether you get Elakir out or not. So yeah, can't wait to do this myself at some point. I hope it doesn't happen against me. But yeah, I think people are going to try to draft this combo deck for it, to play Kobold Hermit, play the Primal Talismans. But I think it's better to just have this card on its own, and then if it works, it works. If not, you have a 5 mana 5/5 and you didn't lose anything. So that's my take on the card. What's Draft it standalone. If it happens, it happens. It's very cool. If not, you have a 5 and a 5/5, which is fine. Alright, next card is like, whoa! Unstable Evolution. So, 1 mana, like Evolve, evolves one of your minions, and then you can repeat it. So what happens is you cast this card, you evolve one of your minions, goes back into your hand. You can evolve another minion that turn. It goes away at the end of your turn, right? But during that turn, you can spend all your mana to just, you know, cherry pick where you want to evolve. So yeah, this you could just keep rolling until you get lucky, right? It's like, not that good, not that good, not that, oh yeah, I like that one, right? It's like, oh, Obsidian Statue. I think I'll stick with you. All right, so what can you become now? Boop, boop. So yeah, super memey card, but at the same time, scary, real scary. Now, from the other shaman cards, we don't have to be that afraid, because obviously the Hermit, the Talismans, the Murmuring Elemental, the Healing Rain, like 2 commons, 2 rares, are probably not going to be that good. So I don't think Shaman's suddenly going to become a dominant force. So we're probably not going to see this too often, but if you're playing against Shamans, this card is in the back of your mind, right? You can turn your 3-drop into a 7-drop on turn 4. That's pretty good, right? 3-drop kills something for free, and then we make it into a 7-drop. Or we stop whenever we like it, and then we maybe try to evolve something else. So yeah, seems like a really good card, and something you want to look out for when you're playing as Shaman. Right, the legendary weapon is the Rune Spear. After your hero attacks, discover a spell and cast it with random targets. So you get to choose which spell, but the targets are random. So equip this card, attack the opponent's face, discover Volcano, easy low, right? It's, yeah, so Volcano, Lightning Storm, pretty good. Maelstrom Portal, you can also get. Still, it's 8 mana, it's a legendary. For Arena, I don't think it's going to be that that common, right? But it can be a tilter, right? If they equip this on 8 and pull Volcano, that can definitely be a tilter. Alright. So the legendary minion is Grumble, World Shaker. Battlecry, return your minions to your hand. They cost 1. So a lot of combo potential here once again, but I think it's more a constructed card. Obviously in Arena there are going to be boards where it's nuts. You pull like you pull Fire Rally back, you pull Blaze Caller back. It's an elemental itself. You just get to play them for 1 mana. They retain their original stats, and you get to play the effect again. So if you have any beneficial battle cries on your board, that's really nice. And obviously, you do take everything back to your hand, so even the things that didn't have a beneficial battle cry, you're gonna have to spend 1 mana to play it again. So if you're anywhere near pressured, like, this card isn't that good, because you're gonna play it, you're gonna have to return all your minions to your hand. It's like a vanish just for you. Now you get to play them for 1 mana, but that's still 1 mana. So especially on curve, you probably don't want to play this card because you can't replay anything. Maybe on 8 and then replaying 2 cards, one of them is a beneficial battle cry. That could be pretty good. Alright guys, that's it for the Shaman cards. Moving on to the Rogue cards. Now the Rogue got a pretty interesting change this season, or this expansion rather. They've added secrets to Rogue, so now there are 4 secret classes rather than the traditional 3. Yeah, let's just dive right in. The first card is a Kobold Illusionist. It's a 4-mana 3/3 Death Rattle. Summon a 1/1 copy of a minion from your hand. 4-mana 3/3 with an additional 1/1. Nah, we don't like it. Like, maybe you get lucky and it pulls like a crazy Death Rattle, but other than that, it's just a 4-mana 3/3 that summons a 1/1. We're not too impressed. Alright, first secret, Cheat Death. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand, it costs 2 less. Rogue secrets will cost 2, so same as the Hunter. I mean, secrets in general are pretty bad. Hunter is like the exception, I feel, with Freezing Trap, Snake Trap, Venom Strike even, so Hunter secrets are pretty good, but Paladin and Mage secrets are pretty bad. So far from what I've seen, the Rogue secrets are pretty bad as well. which makes sense because that would be a decent way to nerf Rogue in the arena because it's been very dominant for a very long time. So this is like Getaway Kodo, right? Getaway Kodo for 2. Sure, the minion costs 2 less, but the secret also costs 2. So yeah, I'm not too impressed. I'm not a fan of Getaway Kodo at all. So like all these things, they all sound nice and you're like, oh, I can do this and I can do that, and then you just remember that your opponent is curving out and hitting you in the face and you've played a secret. So alright, the next one, Sudden Betrayal, though, is something you're gonna have to play around. When a minion attacks your hero, instead it attacks one of its neighbors. So if you attack the rogue, that minion will then attack one of the minions adjacent, one of the adjacent minions. So I like this because it's gonna force people to really think about it, and people that aren't gonna think about it gonna get punished. I don't think I'm gonna be drafting this card a ton on my own, but whenever the opponent plays a secret as a rogue, this is gonna be like, okay, now where do we put our guys and which minion has to attack? So I can just imagine like the poison minion attacking, being forced to attack the 7/7 right next to it, like, bunk. So yeah, this can have some really awkward situations. But I think for the player that is willing to put in some thought into it, they should be able to dismantle the rogue secrets fairly well. All right, then next up we have a 2-mana 3/1 Battlecry. Draw a weapon from your deck. So at 2 mana, you get a 3/1 instead of a 3/2. That's obviously a downside. So I don't think the card is crazy, but if you have Shadow Blades in your deck, if you have Perdition's Blades in your deck, I think it's fine, right? Because then you're going to play this on curve, pull your Shadow Blade to your hand, use your Shadow Blade or your Perdition's Blade on 3. Seems pretty good to me. So deck dependent. I don't think I'm going to be picking this card up early because it's probably going to be offered a ton because it's a common, right? And I think I'll more just hold off, see if I get a Shadow Blade, see if I get a Perdition's Blade, see if I have maybe 2 copies of them, and then maybe draft one of these. I don't think I'm going to want like 2-3 copies of these guys because later in the game they're no longer going to be pulling your weapons and they're just going to be 3/1s for 2. Ooh, the next one, Elven Minstrel. 4-mana 3/2, so ooh, stats are like ooh, but combo, draw 2 minions from your deck. So we're playing Arena, the majority of your deck is minions. So this card somewhat says draw 2 cards from your deck. Now obviously you know you're getting minions, so it won't save you with a sap or anything. But still, for the late game, yeah. For aggro decks, yeah. So I think I'm gonna be drafting this card myself just to try it out, just how it feels, because with cards that de-tempo yourself, it's always a little difficult. You really have to get a feel for it, but so far this looks pretty powerful to me, the Elven Minstrel. So could be wrong about it, but it's something I'll be trying out, and it looks like it's gonna be strong, especially in the aggro decks. All right, then the Lesser Onyx Spellstone. Destroy 1 random enemy minion. Play 3 Death Rattle cards to upgrade this. So I think this is one of the toughest ones to upgrade so far. Playing 3 Death Rattle minions and then having to play another 3 to upgrade it again. Now luckily, when the spell is completely isolated, destroy 1 random enemy minion, I'm not going to say that's good, but it's removal and we're playing Arena. So having removal in Arena is a good thing. As a rogue, you can usually control the board so you can choose which is going to be the random minion. So I'm not going to say that this card is amazing or anything, but there are definitely going to be packs where you're like, yeah, okay, I'll take 5 mana, kill a random thing. Sure, it's not great, but it's removal and it's Arena, so I'll end up taking it. So the effect is fairly powerful compared to what we've seen so far, but you have to play the Death Rattle upgraded. And then the upgrades would be destroy 2 random minions, destroy 3 random minions. So if someone pulls that off, obviously that's going to be nuts. Just like destroy 3 random minions if there's a good board. But that's 6 Death Rattle cards you need to upgrade while the Spellstone is in your hand. So yeah, decent effect, but pretty tough upgrade requirements. All right, the next card is like, whoa. Faldore Strider. 4-mana 4/4. So we've seen a couple of these, right? These 4-mana 4/4s that have a good effect. where, you know, you detempo yourself a little bit playing it on curve, but it shuffles 3 ambushes into your deck. When you draw it, summon a 4/4 spider. So the moment this thing hits once, it's insane, right? The moment this thing hits 1 spider, you get an additional 4/4 on the board. So before we just had the God, what was it called again? Like Beneath the Grounds, I think, 3 mana spell, shuffle 3 ambushes into your opponent's deck. Just compare that to this, right? At the cost of 1 additional mana, you get a 4/4 body on top of that effect. So yeah, this is scary, right? First of all, people are gonna pick this card because it seems fun. They're like, oh man, oh, I get to take extra things. So it's gonna happen against you, right? Some people are just gonna get lucky and gonna pull it a turn later or 2 turns later, and they're immediately gonna get that upside. But you're gonna draft it a decent amount of the time yourself, I assume. And yeah, it just once again adds that extra random components. But yeah, I mean it's a 4/4 body, so I mean I think you have to go with it. The downside really isn't that big, and the upside is huge. All right, next up we have the last rogue secret, which is an epic as well. It's a defensive secret. It's called Evasion, and after your hero takes damage, it becomes immune this turn. So this is more, I mean, it's not one of those things you're going to draft, but it's one of those things when you're playing against rogues, you're going to be like, okay, so which minion has to attack first? Which makes it funny, because then if you want to go for the lethal and you attack with the biggest minion and it's sudden betrayal, then the biggest minion suddenly attacks something else. So that's probably what you're going to want to keep in mind. But even if your hero survives an additional turn, like we've seen Ice Block, like the first thought here is like, oh yeah, then you survive another turn and then you kill him the turn after. But how often is that really the case with Ice Block, right? So I would say not too high hopes for this card. Anything that's like any spell that's like life gain or delay your death for another turn usually just means lose the game a turn later. Alright, the legendary rogue weapon is Kingsbane. It's a 1 mana 1/3 weapon. Death Rattle, shuffle this into your deck. It keeps any enchantments. Once again, it sounds cool, but I think it's too much work. Like, probably the dream is getting an envenom weapon on this and then getting it back immediately. Now you can tutor it back into your hand with like the Cavern Shiny Finder, or just diluting your deck with like Elven Minstrel or so, but it's, once again, I feel like it's too much work for Arena. Like in Arena, we just want good standalone effects, and this is too combo-y. This takes too much work for me. If it were any other class but Rogue, I would say sure, it's a 1 mana 1/3 with upside, but as a Rogue, you can just hero power and you'll have that or close to that. So, I'm not a huge fan of the Kingsbane. All right, then the Rogue legendary minion is Sonya, Shadow Dancer. After a friendly minion dies, add a 1/1 copy of it to your hand. It costs 1. So it's a 3 mana 2/2. So probably once again a bit more constructed, but there are certain applications to this, right? If you have an Elven Minstrel die when this is on the board, you get a 1 mana Elven Minstrel in your hand, which is really good. You can have a Faldora Strider die and then get it back for 1 mana. You can have a Valspine die, so it's definitely not a curve card. Well, it could be a curve card, but probably not. It's more something you keep in your hand. You have a really good minion on the board, you play Sonya, you trade off your really good minion, you get the really good minion for 1 mana, and then in the case of Valspine or Elven Minstrel, you can instantly combo it because you've played Sonya that turn. So more a mid to late game card that you can use to get really powerful effects back. So look at your deck, see if you have any of those, and then if you do, then yeah, Sonya might be the legendary for you. Alright guys, we're gonna go over the priest cards now. So, this is another one of those random cards. It's the Unidentified Elixir. Give a minion +2/+2 and gains a bonus effect in your hand. The bonus effects are +2/+2 and Divine Shield, which is pretty good. Giving a minion +2/+2 and Divine Shield, we'll definitely take that. Give a minion +2/+2, then summon a 1/1 copy of it. So it's like, sure. Give a minion +2/+2 and Lifesteal, does not feel worth it at all. Give a minion +2/+2 and give it Death Rattle, return this minion to your hand. Probably also not that great. Maybe on a particular high value minion or so. So the only one that I think is really good here is the Divine Shield one. So Probably not something I'm gonna want to draft a lot myself, but it could be annoying when the opponent high rolls, gets the Divine Shield early. So yeah, we're probably gonna be seeing a ton of this in your draft, and I think you'll be skipping most of them. Same with the Psionic Rope, honestly. Copy a spell in your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. Maybe, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a 1 mana spell, so it's kind of like... The thing is, like, the reason why Hallucination is good is you get to choose, right? And there's a very decent chance you can get something good. Just imagine casting Psionic Rope and getting to my side. I mean, it's likely not going to happen. I don't think people are going to draft that card. But it's, yeah. It's random, you don't get to choose, so I don't really like it. No. Alright, then Gilded Gargoyle, 3 mana 2/2. Death Rattle, add a coin to your hand. Once again, right, you detempo yourself a decent amount early, but in a really heavy deck where, yeah, I mean, I don't think I like it. I'll have to see how the Priest feels, right, when I'm playing with it in a new expansion, but so far, I don't think the coin is going to be worth playing a 2/2 on turn 3. So, alright. Moving on. Oh, dear lord. Why, Blizzard? Why? We have Duskbreaker, a 4 mana 3/3 dragon. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, deal 3 damage to all other minions. So, basically, Excavated Evil for 1 mana less, and you get to have a 3/3 on top. Now, you might say, well, Shady didn't need to have a dragon. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, Draconid Operative never goes off, right? So, I mean, it just increases, like, that high roll identity of the Priest, where, you know, if stuff comes together, you're, essentially what that means is, like, you're not going to beat them. Like, if the Priest gets the draw they need, like, you're just not going to beat them. Because, I mean, like, trying, like, just imagine, like, having an aggressive board and turn 4 this thing just blows up your board. I don't think I'll be playing around it when I'm playing aggressive decks, because I don't think you can, right? You give Priest way too much breathing room. You're playing around Holy Nova most of the time, and I think it's still correct to play around Holy Nova instead of this thing, because this thing has a condition, right? Like, you need to have another dragon in your hand. So yeah, I'm not happy to see this card. Obviously, I'll be experimenting with it myself, see if I can get the Dragon Synergy to go off. But playing against Priest is just... There is yet again another random beat that they can have to your board. Right. Alright, moving on. We have the Lesser Diamond Spellstone. Resurrect 2 different friendly minions. Cast 4 spells to upgrade this. So 4 spells, that's still pretty difficult to do. While this thing is in your hands. Remember, it is Arena, so I don't think this is that amazing in terms of its condition to upgrade, but resurrecting 2 different friendly minions at the cost of 7 mana can be good. Once again, we still need to remind ourselves that it's Arena, and you're probably going to be curving reasonably low, so you're going to have 2s, 3s, 4s in there. So yeah, not my favorite spellstone so far. I don't think it's going to be that good in Arena. Then next we have the Twilight's Call, a 3 mana spell. Summon 1/1 copies of 2 friendly Death Rattle minions that have died this game. Whew. Okay, so obviously this can be nuts, right? When you have really powerful Death Rattles in your pool. But once again, you still need to get there, right? So having powerful Death Rattle minions die usually is going to take a while. So you're not going to be able to do this on curve. You're probably not even going to be able to do this on turn 5. And in terms of tempo, you do only summon 1/1s. So I don't think I like the card too much. Maybe in specific decks, right? Like you have Cairn in your deck, you get a 1/1 Cairn, obviously that's nuts. Like even Polluted Hoarder, getting an extra card is fine. It's another really good Death Rattle. Obsidian Statue, you get Statue back. So I don't think this is going to be too common that it's going to be really good. But it's something you probably want to keep your eye out. How does your deck look? If you just only have powerful Death Rattles, then sure. If you have a lot of shitty Death Rattles and some powerful ones, it's still RNG, right? You're still not guaranteed to get the good ones. So overall, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of this card. Unlike the next baby, holy damn! This is Psychic Scream, 7 mana. Shuffle all minions into your opponent's deck. So Light Bomb was really, really good because it killed everything, or close to everything. This is also going to kill everything, including high mains and stuff. You're not going to get your puppies because the card is going to be shuffled into the opponent's deck. So Cairn, high main. I mean, yeah, you're giving your opponent Cairn and high main, but the death roll doesn't go off. So for Priest, that's pretty significant that it just has this card where it's like, all right, I just need to live, and then blah, the board comes back to me, and then I drop a free from Amber, and then we're good, right? So that's something that, yeah. It's, yeah, you're gonna have to, a lot of the time you're just gonna have to be like, oh man, if they have it, then, but if they do have it, then I kind of lose anyway. So that's one of those cards. Now you might think like, Shady, isn't it like a super big downside that you're giving all these cards to your opponent? It's like, if there's anything that like Keening Banshee has taught us, right, and Fel Reaver, is that cards in your deck aren't yours. You first need to draw them, right? So your opponent is not getting a card advantage because the cards aren't being put in their hand. They first need to draw the card. So that's a pretty big one. And it is absolutely worth the downside of putting everything in your opponent's deck. You can even abuse this mechanic by shuffling like fireflies into your opponent's deck, or tokens, or just any random trash minion that you want to give to your opponent, which increases the chance you're going to draw a bad card. Alright, next card is the Twilight Acolyte, a 3 mana 2/4, so stat line not too impressive, but somewhat okay. If you're holding a dragon, swap this minion's attack with another minion's. Oh, another one of those dragon high roll cards, because just imagine your opponent has a 6/6, you have a dragon, suddenly you have a 6/4 and your opponent has a 2/6. For 3 mana, that is pretty good because you have both put an overstated minion on your end of the board, and you have successfully reduced the damage of your opponent's minion. So it's one of those cards that you'll pick sometimes for curve because it's the best epic, and then maybe you get a dragon or two, and then hey, it works out and you get to do the thing, right? So pretty frustrating once again when the priest deck comes together and high rolls its way to a dragon deck. All right. The priest legendary weapon is the Dragon Soul. 3 mana 0/3. After you cast 3 spells this turn, summon a 5/5 dragon. Right? I mean, 3 spells in 1 turn in Arena. How often does that happen? Not super often. Now we do have the Psionic Robe, but I feel like once again it's a bit more of a constructed thing where people are going to try and do that. So not too impressed with it, just because it's going to require you to do something that you're probably not going to be able to do in Arena. Alright, and the Priest Legendary Minion, man, this one's tough to call, right? 7 mana 6/6, Battlecry, your opponent takes 2 turns, and then you take 2 turns. So, as a Priest, if you get to play 2 turns in a row, that's usually like the end, right? Because like Priests just get pressured, and all they need is just a little bit of breathing room. Now, obviously, your opponent gets to go twice first. So, in a situation where your opponent is, I mean, it kind of doesn't matter though, right? Because even if your opponent didn't have anything to play, you were probably going to be fine. So, I think most of the time, this thing's going to be pretty darn bad, because either your opponent has stuff to do and then it's terrible, or your opponent doesn't have stuff to do, and then you were going to get those 2 turns kind of anyway, right? So, yeah, I don't think we like it. Alright guys, that's it for the priest cards. Alright guys, next up we have the paladin cards. So, let's dive right in. We got the Dry Gulch Jailer. 2 mana 1/1, death rattle, add 3 Silverhand recruits to your hand. At first glance, not really that great. There are some effects that benefit from Silverhand recruits, or Silverhand recruits benefit from them. So in that regard, might be fine, but you're still paying 2 mana for a 1/1, and you're getting 3 1/1s to your hand, so you still need to pay for them. I mean, it might be okay, right? Firefly ended up being way better than we anticipated it, just because you had that extra body in your hand to be able to play it. So this guy could surprise, right? It could surprise us, especially in a deck where you have cards that rely on Silverhand recruits, or Silverhand recruits are like they benefit a lot from it. Next is the Benevolent Djinn. 3 mana 2/4 elemental, so that's a huge one if you have elemental synergy. It restores 3 health to your hero at the end of the turn. It's a 2/4 for 3. We've seen a lot of these, so 4/4s are going to be even better because people, or 4/3s as well, people are going to be playing a lot of 2/4s on curve. I don't think this is that good. It's just like health to your hero or whatever, right? So yeah, not that big of a fan of it. Potion of Heroism. Give a minion Divine Shield, draw a card. We like that, right? Yeah, just being able to Divine Shield something and it not costing a card is nice. Argent Protector is obviously still better because you get to play a 2/2 body, but this thing is fine because you're not going to lose a card to it. So 2 mana to make your minion trade with another minion for free and not losing a card for it is nice. All right, the Unidentified Maul. This is the last one of the unidentified cards, and this one's probably the one I'm most scared about because here are the 4 effects. Number 1, 3 mana 2/2 weapon, Battlecry, summon 2 1/1 Sylvaned Recruits. I'm not gonna say it's muster for battle, but hey, it's kind of like muster for battle, right? You get to have a 2/2 this time, and you get to have 2 1/1s. So pretty good, right? But then the next one, 3 mana 2/2, so they're all 3 mana 2/2s, right? But Battlecry, give your minions Divine Shield. Yeah, your minions. Not a random minion, your minions. That's nuts, right? I mean, Coghammer, hello, right? This thing is AoE Coghammer. Now, you don't get Taunt, and it's a 2/2 instead of a 2/3, but still, AoE Coghammer. Holy crap! Like, how can you do this? No! I was just like getting over my Paladin PTSD and just like, So the fact that it's random is going to be even more triggering. Alright, then the other ones are like better, or at least for me. Blessed Maul, give your minions +1 attack. Sure, I mean, that's good, right? But not AoE Divine Shield good. And then the other one gives your minions Taunt. So AoE Taunt Giver, that's like the sad one of the bunch, right? You'd much rather have one of the other ones. Yeah, that's scary. That's real scary. The AoE Divine Shield, summoning the recruits, those are pretty good. So I really hope that, I mean, it's gonna happen, but I really hope it doesn't happen too often that I just lose on curve because my opponent Divine Shields 2 minions. That's crazy. All right, Lesser Pearl Spellstone. Summon a 2/2 spirit with Taunt, restore 3 health to upgrade. So it's 2 mana for a 2/2. So in the very, very worst case scenario, you get to play a 2/2. If you get to restore 3 health, you get a 4/4 spirit. If you get to restore 3 health again, you get to have a 6/6 spirit. So in that regard, the Benevolent Djinn could be okay if you have the Spellstone. I don't think I'm going to draft this too highly, but worst case, it's going to be a 2 mana 2/2. And sometimes there's the upside, so Once again, in terms of downsides, I think this is fine because at the very worst, you're playing a 2/2, which is like, sure, I'll take it. Sometimes I draft Kobold Geomancer and it works out, right? All right, Crystal Lion, 6 mana for a 5/5 Divine Shield. You might say, it's like kind of okay, I suppose. Like Sunwalker is Taunt, and it's like, oh, by the way, if you have a Sylvaned Recruit on the board, it costs 1 less. If you have 2 Sylvaned Recruits on the board, it costs 2 less. If you have, so you get the point. Yeah, that's pretty scary, because I mean, yeah. 6 mana 5/5 Divine Shield is playable. This is not a terrible card. This is not something that you'd be like, oh my god, if I have 0 dudes on board, this thing is just not, I just can't play it at all. This is playable. So then this is scary, right? If your opponent has 3 dudes on board, suddenly you can expect a 3 mana 5/5 Divine Shield. Ugh. So yeah, I assume this thing is going to be drafted a decent amount of the time. So remember back when Quartermaster was a thing? Well, I mean, there's another Quartermaster in this set as well, but you'd like always kill the dudes. Now you're sometimes like, do do I need to kill the beast or the dude? Like, he might have dude synergy, but he might also have beast synergy. Now it's like always the dude. Like, the dude's gotta go, man. Like, all dudes have to go. This is very scary. Alright, next card is Call to Arms. 4 mana, recruit 3 minions that cost 2 or less. Yeah, I like it. It's like 4 mana, doppelgangster-ish. Sometimes better, sometimes a little worse, but 4 mana for a doppelgangster, right? Now, if you get to pull, like you get to pull your Dry Gulch Jailer, maybe you drafted that, then you get all the dudes in your hand, then you play the dudes, then you play the Crystalline, and boom, all the synergy, right? But yeah, if this thing pulls 3 2s or 2 3s, yeah, very strong. Even if you have 1-drops, if you have good 1-drops, it's fine. It can even pull the 2/3, right? Forgot his name right now, but the 2/3 that summons a 1/1 or a 1-drop for your opponent. Even if you pull that as a 1-mana card, with this card, that's super fine. So I expect Call to Arms to be fairly good, and I expect to see a decent amount of them. Now, it's an epic, so we'll still see, but yeah. It just feels like the downside isn't really there. It feels like you won't get a terrible outcome very often. Alright, and then here it is, Quartermaster's back, baby. 5 mana, give your Silver Hand recruits +2/+2 and taunt. Now, it doesn't have a body, so it's not exactly Quartermaster. So I don't think it's really that great, but still, you're gonna have to keep it in the back of your mind, because even if you don't get the body, if you get a bunch of Silver Hand recruits on the board, like your opponent gets to do it and he buffs them, that is still significant. So it's more that this card is a problem in terms of I have to keep it in the back of my mind, but I don't think it's going to be a crazy overpowered card. Now, we do have to see with the introduction of the Dry Gulch Jailer, maybe getting a bunch of dudes on the board is going to be easier. So it might be more frequent that this thing goes off. But overall, I'm not too worried about level up. I think Quartermaster was more scary, because obviously you have the body of the Quartermaster as well. All right. Then for the Paladin's legendary weapon, you have Valanier, 6 mana 4/2. Give a minion in your hand +4/+2. When it dies, re-equip this. That's a lot of value. So I think out of all the legendary weapons that we've seen so far, this one is the most applicable to Arena, where you get a 6 mana 4/2. So let's compare stuff, right? Because it's always a bit easier. You get a Reaper at 5 mana. You get a True Silver at 4 mana. So essentially you're overpaying for True Silver by 2 points, but when this dies, you buff a minion +4/+2, right? When the minion dies, you get the weapon back, right? So that's so much value if your opponent doesn't have a silence or a sap or whatever. So it's one of those cards where the moment it comes down, your opponent has the thing of like, okay, I can't play for the long game anymore, right? I have to do something, I have to pressure his life total, I have to make sure he just can't keep using that weapon. So in that regard, getting a bit more life gain in your deck, like the Benevolent Djinns, could be a good idea. So yeah, initial reaction is this is going to be a very scary card whenever the game is a bit slow. If you can't pressure the Paladin a ton and this thing comes down, you're going to have a 4/2 weapon that just keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps buffing minions and keeps coming back. All right, now we have Lanessa Sunsorrow, 7 mana 1/1, but when she comes into play, every single buff you've cast also gets cast on her. Initially, I don't think she's going to be amazing to pick up like early in a draft. Maybe if you have a couple Blessing of Kings and a couple Steeds or so, this thing will be like really, really good. If you have one, even if you, like, obviously I'm not talking about the effect itself, right? If you have one Steed and you play this thing, that is pretty good, right? Because then you have 7 mana for a 3/7 with the Steed effect. What I'm talking about is you still run the risk of not having any buffs gone off while you have her in your hand, and then she's a 7 mana 1/1, which is pretty much unplayable. So you want to be careful in which decks you draft her, but yeah, in a deck with buffs, could be good, absolutely. I'm gonna look forward to trying that out. Alright guys, then next up we have the Mage. So, first card here is the Raven Familiar. Battlecry, reveal a spell in each deck. If yours costs more, draw it. So, Joust for spells. A 2 mana 2/2, it's a beast. We like this card. Yeah, I do. It's going to get you to spell a decent amount of the time, just because mage spells tend to cost a lot of mana. And then it's a 2/2 itself, so it's completely playable, right? It's like the 2/1 elemental death rattle that fetches you a random mage spell. This thing gets you a spell from your deck, not 100% of course, but still, it's a better body, and you're probably going to get a better spell as well. All right, next we have the Arcane Artificer. You have whenever you cast a spell, gain armor equals to its cost. It's a 1 mana 1/2, it's an elemental, so maybe in a deck where you need some elemental synergy, it's fine, but most of the time I wouldn't be too impressed by the card, just because it's not enough value and it doesn't give you enough tempo, so not exactly something we're after. The next card is funny, Shifting Scroll. At first I was like, man, can't I find like a version where they have a mana cost on this thing? But I was like, oh, of course there's no mana cost on it. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into a random mage spell. So Shifter Zerus for mage spells. It's a common, so you're gonna see this thing in your draft a lot. I don't think I'll be picking this spell up super highly, but whenever it's up against crap, I will, probably, because hey, it can be really good. Now the thing is that it changes each turn, so you can't just be like, oh nice, it's a meteor, now I can just use it. But like, no, if it's a meteor, if it's a meteor and you want it to be a meteor, you're gonna have to play it on that turn. So, you know, that's why I'm not like too highly on the card. I think it's going to be fine to pick when your other alternatives are pretty bad. But other than that, I'm not gonna pick this card very highly. All right, then we get the Mage's Spellstone, the Lesser Ruby Spellstone. Add a random mage spell to your hand, play 2 elementals to upgrade. Playing 2 elementals is not the most difficult thing in the world if you have an elemental deck in Arena. So I don't think I would like this card too much if I wouldn't have elementals in my deck. But once again, when it comes to the downside, right, the very worst this thing is going to do is 2 mana, cycle it for a mage spell. So once again, I don't think I'll be picking up the Ruby Spellstone very highly, but if the alternatives suck, sure. It's like one of those cards where you're like, fine, okay, I'll take it. It'll de-tempo me a little bit, but I'll guess I'll get, you know, a random mage spell. And mage spells are generally pretty good. So yeah, it's not a super big downside and a reasonable upside if you get elementals in your deck, because then you get to get 2 mage cards, and if you upgrade it again, you get 3 random mage cards for 2 mana. So that's very nice. It's basically Kabbalah's Tome for 2 mana. All right, so new secret for Mage, Explosive Runes. Secret. After your opponent plays a minion, deal 6 damage to it and access to their hero. So unless I'm mistaken, I think this is the first instance of Trample in Hearthstone where, you know, you deal damage to something and then the excess goes onto the hero. In Magic, you have this as well. Minions would have Trample and they would attack something, and the difference between the defending minion's health and the damage would go onto your face. So when I first saw this, I was like, man, this is pretty good, isn't it? It might still be pretty good, but obviously, like, we think about Snipe, right? And Snipe is a, I would say, good card. Not crazy good, but good. For 2 mana. This is 3 mana, but you get to deal some extra face damage. So in the right deck, I think this is going to be a pretty annoying card, because you're gonna want to test with a shitty minion, but playing a shitty minion like a 1/1 means that you're going to take 5 to the face. So That's pretty awkward. Now I assume when you play a Divine Shield, this thing isn't going to deal damage, because all the 6 is going to go onto the Divine Shield. Yeah, so I think in a more aggressive deck, this can actually be really good. And just in general against Mage, you're never too comfortable with your health dipping low. So I think it's an okay secret. I think I'm going to like it more than Mirror Entity. I'm going to like it more than Potion of Polymorph. I'm going to like it more. So still, like, I don't like secrets in general, but I'll definitely be experimenting with this one. And it'll be interesting to see how we will play around this card. All right, the next card, damn, because Mage really needed, you know, nicely statted minions. Mage just gets a Yeti. It's like, here, Mage, have a Yeti. We gave you a Spider Tank last expansion, now you get a Yeti. 4 mana, 4/5 elemental as well, so there's a tribe upside. But that's not it. If you're holding any cards that didn't start in your deck, reduce the cost by 2. Pretty good, right? You Babbling Book something, you have the 2/1 Elemental Death Rattle, you use Kabbalah's Tome, anything like that. So these minions are just always really powerful because they just don't have a downside. They are excellent to play without the effect, and sometimes the effect's going to go off, and that's going to be nuts. So really, really powerful card. Yeah, no reason not to pick it. It's a 4 mana 4/5, and sometimes it's going to do some nice stuff for you. Next up, we have Deck of Wonders. Yeah, it's a meme card. There's really not much more to say about it. You shuffle 5 scrolls into your deck. When you draw one of the scrolls, you cast a random spell. Now, the scroll itself will draw you another card, so it's not like you draw the scroll and that's your turn. You draw the scroll, it does something, and then you draw another card. I mean, people will think about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like Flame Strike my opponent's board or Blizzard my opponent's board, and sure, that's gonna happen. But keep in mind that you paid 5 mana and a card to shuffle the scrolls into your deck with no guarantee that you'll draw any of them anytime soon or on a turn where it'll be good. So the chance of you drawing the card when you need it is not that big. And then the chance of that scroll being a Blizzard or a Flame Strike or a Nova or so is also not going to be that big. You can just end up Pyroblasting your own face. You can just end up Fireballing your own face. So pretty big meme card, and I don't think you're going to want to go near it. Next is Dragon's Fury. 5 mana, reveal a spell from your deck, deal damage equal to its cost to all minions. So if you pull a 5 mana spell, this is Dragonfire Potion, right? It's pretty crazy, but once again, you could just pull a Volcanic Potion, and then you've paid 5 mana for, I guess, an Excavated Evil. That's pretty good. Yeah. So I'm guessing that this card is just going to depend on how many low-cost spells you have in your deck. If you have a lot of high-cost spells in your deck, it's going to be pretty nuts, because the chance of you clearing the board for 5, and we all know that's pretty good, is going to be, you know, is going to be pretty likely that you're going to be able to clear the board with this thing. So another control tool. It'll be fun to see how often this ends up being good, but yeah. Likely to be a good card. Alright, then the Mage legendary weapon is Aluneth, 6 mana 0/3. At the end of your turn, draw 3 cards. I think we're going to want to experiment with this for sure. In a heavy control deck or a heavy aggro deck, I think this will be pretty darn decent. You do pay 6 mana for it, so it is quite slow. But in the control mirror, you get an amazing upside, and in an aggro deck, you're gonna have excess mana anyway. I think it's only in a mid-range deck that this thing is gonna be a little bit too slow for what it does. But yeah, in either an aggro or a control mage, this looks like an excellent value tool. All right, the legendary mage minion is Dragoncaller Alana. Battlecry, summon a 5/5 dragon for each spell you cast this game that costs 5 or more. Yeah, so obviously she's a 3/3. If you summon 1 5/5, that's not good, but you'll be like, okay, I did my thing. If you summon 2 5/5s, that's good. If you summon more than 2 5/5s, that's really good. So once again, deck dependent. You'll have to see how many high cost spells you have. She herself is also a 9 mana card. So yeah, I don't think this will happen against me like too often, because usually those greedy decks you're able to kill them. But you know, in the right deck, it can be a problem. That's for sure. All right, guys. Time for my baby, my favorite class, the Hunter. All right, I really like some of these Hunter cards, so I'm pretty hopeful that Smork is gonna make a comeback. So let's get started. The first card is the Flanking Strike, 4 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion, summon a 3/3 wolf. Phoenix, Fire Plume Phoenix, is a 4 mana 3/3 that deals 2 damage. This is a 4 mana 3/3 that deals 3 damage. Can't go face though. But still, for board control, like, wow! Like the first time I read this card, I was like, what? I mean, it's for hunters, so I'm pretty happy, but still, what? Yeah, that is strong. It's just straight up strong. And it's a common, so it's gonna be everywhere. I can really see that they're trying to pull spell hunters, like, let's just give them a bunch of good spells. But yeah, I will be drafting this thing, and I'll be drafting 2 of them, or 3 of them, or maybe 4 of them. So, all right. Now, I guess the only downside is that if you are the only player that has minions on the board, you're gonna have to shoot your own guy. So that's the only downside. But usually you'll be able to hold it. So, all right. Next up, another common, Cave Hydra, a 3 mana 2/4 beast. So you're like, it's a 2/4, it's a beast. That's like, okay, I guess another 3. But here's the text. Also damages the minions next to whomever this attacks. Like, that's so much control power early game. And so much like, ugh, for your opponent, because it's like, I can't play this because then he can attack that guy and deal this. Like, your opponent gets heavily incentivized to not play as many minions as he normally can, which is a problem against Hunter, because you really want to counter tempo them. But if the Paladin summons a 1/1, I'm just going to attack that 1/1, and then I'm going to attack his 3/2 next to it, only taking 1 damage on my Cave Hydra. So whereas normally your Paladin opponent would maybe have a 3/2 and a 1/1 to get back into your 4-power minion, he now only has a 3/2 because there is no upside to making the 1/1. And there's obviously going to be a lot of people misplaying into this thing, which is really good for us. So yeah, super powerful, a little scary, but yeah, I like it. Hunter, it's Hunter's time, baby. And then the third common is like Light's Justice, pretty much, right? Candle Shot, 1 mana, 1/3, immune while attacking. Hey, pings for days in a class that needs pings. Yeah, I mean, out of all classes, I think, I mean, Warlock got the nuts, right? With the 2 crazy Zoom minions, but man, this is powerful, right? This is very powerful. I'm gonna really look forward to try Hunter, and I really hope that it's not disappointing, but from what I can see here, the 3 commons are excellent. So, I mean, if all of your commons in the set are excellent, that's a good sign, right? Alright, so next up, we have a new secret for Hunter. It's called Wandering Monster. Whenever an enemy attacks your hero, summon a 3-cost minion as the new target. So Bear Trap is kind of back. So the difference between Bear Trap and this card is the bear spawned after the attack, so you got to direct the attack. You knew what you were going to get, and it had taunt. So it could really screw up your opponent. Now, Wandering Monster can be better, obviously. You can just summon a really strong 3-drop and your opponent just attacks into it, loses the minion immediately. Or, you know, you get a really shitty minion. So I don't think I like this card more than Bear Trap just because of the random component, but I'm still going to try it out because any secret that messes up your opponent's ordering, and especially face secrets, right? Because opponents just love to hit the face to just see, let's see what it is. Let's see if it's an explosive trap. Let's see if I can get some value. It punishes quite hard. So I'm definitely looking forward to playtesting this one, and it looks like it's going to be decent at least. Okay, the next rare card for the hunter is Sleeping Oozling, a 6 mana 5/4, so quite understated. Battle cry is gain the death rattle of a random minion in your deck. Now, if you look at the cards released here, the only death rattle I see is on the legendary card. So probably death rattles aren't going to be super common. So it's one of those cards that you're probably not going to want, but if you have 2 high mains in your deck, yeah, this guy suddenly becomes pretty good, you know. So it's all about looking at what your draft currently has, whether you're going to want the Oozling in your deck, but I probably wouldn't want it, seeing as it is quite understated. It has the stats of a 4-drop, so it needs a powerful death rattle to make up for that. Alright, then the Spellstone for the hunter. 5 mana, summon 2 3/3 wolves. Play a secret to upgrade. Upgrade is summon 3 3/3 wolves. Play a secret to upgrade. Summon 4 3/3 wolves. I mean, summoning 2 3/3s for 5 is fine, right? I mean, it's nothing crazy. You're not going to be like, oh my god, I just got, just destroyed this guy. But the wolves are beasts, I assume. I can check here. I thought I could check here. Oops. But I'm assuming they're beasts, yeah. So then that's already decent. So then if you play 1 secret, suddenly you're going to have 3 wolves for 5, and that is strong, right? And then if you play another one, you're going to have 4 wolves. So it really feels like they're giving Hunter a lot of love here. Maybe indirect for Arena, although I can't imagine they printed Candleshot for Constructed. Right? So it's like, yeah, good on you, Blizzard. Thank you. It's gonna be fun because I think Hunter is one of the most skill intensive classes in the arena, because you constantly have to evaluate, can I push the face, can I not push the face? So yeah, very happy to see this. All right, and then now kind of the exact opposite. They've released To My Side, 6 mana, summon an animal companion. Does it do anything else? Nope, just 6 mana, summon an animal companion. Oh, should your deck not have any minions, you get 2 of them, but that's not going to happen. So it's 6 mana, summon an animal companion. Yeah, let's move on. Alright, 7 mana, Crushing Walls. Destroy your opponent's left and rightmost minions. Another like super spicy card, right? So yeah, I'm just getting excited, guys. It's like good hunter cards, good hunter cards. Oh yeah, baby. So destroying the right and left cards means that your opponent has to be playing around it by playing a strong card in the middle, the weak cards on the edges, which already then plays into Explosive Shot, right? But the thing against Hunter is you're probably not going to have a big board. So if your opponent has 1 big taunt minion, hey, that is the most far left or far right card at the time, so that's going to just die. If your opponent only has 2 cards, hey, that is the most far left and most right card, they're going to die. So I'm not sure if we're going to want a lot of copies of these, because it is a 7 mana card, it is not super flexible, but yeah, I'm absolutely going to be looking forward to testing this out. But just removal looks pretty good, but it's 7 mana, so we got to keep that in mind. 7 mana. High cost cards have a tendency to disappoint, so we will have to check this out. But from first impression, it looks like a nice tool to add to the Hunter's kit. All right, then the legendary weapon also is a bit of a meme for Hunter. If your deck has no minions, fill your hand with Hunter spells. It's like not gonna happen in Arena, so it's a 7 mana 4/2 weapon, which is not good enough. All right, moving on. The Hunter legendary, Katharina Winterwisp, 8 mana 6/6, Battle Cry, and Death Rattle, Recruit a Beast. So we're paying 8 mana for a 6/6. Typical beast, we're gonna maybe summon a 3-drop like a Cave Hydra. So an 8 mana 6/6, this summons herself obviously, and then a Cave Hydra, and when it dies, it summons another beast. So obviously the potential here to pull a high main or so is like, it's really nice, but most of the time I don't think she's gonna be like insane, right? I think you're gonna be fine picking her up in a slower Hunter, right, where you need that bit of late game push. maybe a deck with like multiple crushing walls and you just value and just more control-ish. But I think most of the time she's not going to be your best legendary for the opponent. Might be wrong, right? That's just the first impression. Okay, guys. Then we're at the last class already. Already, he says. We're in here for 1.5 hours for the class cards. But hey, want to do a good job, right? It's the Druid. Druid has a couple interesting cards. So first one is Oaken Summons. That's not one of them. So it's gain 6 armor and then recruit a minion that costs 4 or less. So essentially you're paying 4 mana for maybe a 4-drop from your deck and you gain some life. I mean, there is this life gain theme that they've got going in the Druid right now in this set, but for Arena I don't think it's going to be a big deal. But next up we have Ironwood Golem, which is a 4-mana card, and it's a 3/6 taunt. You might say, holy, that's insane. But it can't attack, only if you have 3 or more armor. So that's what I was talking about, the whole life gain theme for Druid is allowing this thing to attack. Now, I think it's still fine if it can't attack, because it's kind of like Tar Creeper, right? It's not as good as Tar Creeper. Tar Creeper comes down on turn 3, but Tar Creeper is excellent, right? And this thing then has the potential to push 3 damage later, so one of those cards, once again, where you just need to play with it, get a feel for it, but my baseline like prediction is like decent, right? Decent, and we'll have to see how often you get the armor, how often you get to go off with it, but being able to play a 3/6 taunt looks pretty good to me. Alright, so next up we have Barkskin, which is a 1-mana spell. Give a minion +3 health and gain 3 armor. So pretty useful if you have an Ironwood Golem on the board. Yeah, I mean, Power Word Shield gives a minion +2 health and you get to draw a card. This only gives 1 additional health. You don't get the card, you get the armor, which is probably going to be useless. So I don't think this is a premium card, but early in the game, if you say have a 3/2 up against your opponent's 3/2 or 2/3 even, you buff this thing, suddenly you have a 3/5 killing your opponent's 2/3 and you play another 2-drop on your turn 3. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. So I think in the right deck, maybe I don't think I want more than 1 copy of this, but maybe 1 copy just to like, you know, just like that Mark of Yasharaj, catching someone off guard, getting that additional health, getting good trade. But it can obviously be a dead card, and the fact that it doesn't cycle does make it quite a bit worse than Power Word Shield. Alright, and the last spellstone is the Lesser Jasper's Spellstone. Deal 2 damage to a minion for 1 mana. Gain 3 armor to upgrade. So in terms of downsides, I think this one is one of the best ones, right? The Hunter one was really nice as well, because the baseline is 5 mana for 2 3/3s. The baseline here is Holy Smite, and Holy Smite is a playable card. It's not absolutely top tier, but there's nothing wrong with it. If you get 3 armor, you have 1 mana, deal 4. Suddenly we're in the Soulfire range without having to discard. Very nice. And then if you gain another 3 armor, deal 6 damage to a minion. So when it comes to flexibility and just not, you know, there's very low risk to drafting this card, right? Some of the other spellstones are like, oof, if you don't make it work, it's expensive, it kind of doesn't do enough. This card's baseline is it kind of does what you pay for it, even at its cheapest cost. Then when you do gain 3 armor, suddenly it becomes pretty darn good. And then if you gain another 3, it's like ridiculous, right? Now it can't go face, so obviously there's that, which would be a bit ridiculous, but yeah, I mean, I'm alright with the Lesser Jasper Spellstone. Now, next up we have the Grizzled Guardian, an 8-mana 3/5 taunt, but it's a recruit minion. Death Rattle, recruit 2 minions that cost 4 or less. Again, kind of hard to imagine, right? Like, from what I can see, I'm not really going to like it, just because, 8 mana for a 3/5, it is a beast. But still, like, you can just pick 2 2-drops, and then you've paid 8 mana for a 3/5 that summons 2 2-drops when it dies. Super slow, right? So a lot of tempo loss initially. just with the potential to high roll. So not a huge fan at first sight. Next card is the Greedy Sprite. 3 mana, 3/1, Death Rattle, gain an empty mana crystal. That seems worth it. So we know that ramp is quite powerful in Druid, especially ramp on minions. Remember when we had the Darnassus Aspirant, a 2 mana, 2/3, Battlecry, gain an empty mana crystal. Death Rattle, lose the empty mana crystal. That was a very, very powerful card. If you could not kill that card, that ramp was going to destroy you. Obviously, this card is understated. It's a 3/1 instead of a 3/3 or a 3/4. But you gain the empty mana crystal when it dies, and there is... so your opponent's not super incentivized to kill it efficiently. He'll probably will. But you're not losing the mana crystal afterwards. So ramp attached to minions is pretty darn good, especially if you have UI in your deck. So yeah, I think I'm alright with the Greedy Sprite. Might be predicting it wrong, but it feels like it's going to be a super decent card. Then Branching Paths. This one was interesting. The first time I looked at it, it was like, huh, how good are you really? Because you're paying 4 mana. You're drawing a card, you're giving your minions +1 attack, or you're gaining 6 armor. You get 2 of those. So the most common combination is going to be draw a card, give your minions +1. So drawing a card, it's kind of like cycling, right? So essentially, I'm paying 4 mana to give my board +1 damage, and Mark of Lotus at 1 mana does that for +1/+1. Now obviously this thing cycles itself, so there is the upside there. And you get to gain 6 armor if you're really in a pinch. But for Arena, I don't think it's going to be that good. Like gaining 6 armor and cycling, something you can do when you're in trouble. But yeah, I might be wrong, but this does not look like a very good card to me right now. But it's once again a card you just need to play with, you need to get a feel for it, but it does not feel super good to me. Okay, Astral Tiger, a 4 mana 3/5. It is not a beast, because it's astral, I suppose. Shuffle a copy of this minion in your deck for its Death Rattle. I don't think I like that too much. It's a 4 mana 3/5, so you'll pick it if the other options suck, but generally speaking, later in the game, you don't want to be drawing into a 3/5. That's basically my only concern. So I'll pick it if the other cards suck, but I don't think I'm incentivized to draft this 3/5 over any other 3/5. Then the weapon, Twig of the World's Tree, Druid's legendary weapon. Death Rattle, gain 10 mana crystals, and they're not empty, so you can use them straight away. Super flashy. I think in Constructed it's going to be ridiculous, but in Arena I think it's going to be a little hard to really utilize it, because you need to swing with it 5 times for it to die. So let's just say you equip it on turn 4 and you swing with it. That still leaves 4 charges, so that's turn 8 when you're getting the mana. And you're essentially skipping turn 4, because the Twig does the same thing a Hero Power would have done on that turn, right? So obviously there is crazy potential to do some super explosive turn, get all the stuff. But I don't know, for Arena, it doesn't feel all that good. Could be very wrong about this, but for Arena, I don't think it's that crazy. Just because it takes you a while. Your opponent's not going to ooze it for you, right? So yeah, it's... Would you then just... Yeah, I guess if it dies on your opponent's turn, you would gain the crystals on your turn. I'm actually not sure. Maybe oozing it just nullifies the effect. We'll have to see, yeah. Alright. And then Ixalit, the Fungal Lord, is the last card we're going to be reviewing. It's a Druid legendary minion. After you play a minion, summon a copy of it. So 5 mana 2/5, 5 mana 2/4 elemental. Kind of reminds me of Brand Bronzebeard. You play it and you hope it lives and you get to do a lot of flashy stuff. Except this is a 5 mana card. So obviously the effect is much stronger, right? If you play this and then a 5-drop on turn 10, boom, instant value, super good. But I think it's a little bit too slow for Arena. You're paying 5 mana for a 2/4. It needs to live. Yeah, I'm not super impressed by it. Okay guys, and that is my review of the Kobolds and Catacombs set. So overall I'm pretty excited. Hunter looks like it's going to be pretty darn strong. We're probably going to see a rise in Warlocks further with the zoo effect. Rogue might be nerfed a bit, right? Because it receives the secrets. Warrior might be stepping up with this gem-studded golem and the combo potential. Probably not super likely though. Shaman is looking pretty memey with the evolution, but overall most cards don't look that good. Priest looks like it's going to be high rolling further with their dragon cards. Paladin has potential, but I'm not sure if it's enough. The Crystal Lions are going to be a pretty crazy though, so also looking out for Paladin. Mage looks like it just received a couple excellent control tools, so I don't think Mage is going to be terrible. Yeah, and then Druids, it's like fine-ish. Druids were pretty strong in the previous expansion, so I don't think they got completely destroyed by these cards. They did get a couple bad ones, so we'll have to see if that tanks them too much. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do remember to like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.